everyone, I wanted to let you know that this is another episode where we're working with ABACO polarized sunglasses for a giveaway, so stay tuned to the episode to find out how you can get your own pair. So last time we left off, we were headed south through the ABACOs. Originally we were going to go to Little Harbor and hang out there for a few days before waiting for window to go down to the berries, and then start working our way towards Florida again so we could provision and pick up our new head sail from Precision. But on the way we came across what looked like a really nice spot called Lynyard Cay, and so we decided to drop our anchor there for a few days. It was a really good spot for us because it was fairly isolated, and that meant we could take Georgie to shore. It was good for exploring. But one of the things that we had to be on the lookout for was a good spot to wait out a strong easterly. So the weather forecast we were looking at was going to have about 3 or 4 days of really strong winds from the east, which was kind of a nice change for us because so many of the storms that had been rolling through the ABACO so far we're all from the north, and they don't have many spots in there that offer good protection. But when it comes from the east, you know, all the anchorages for the most part are on the west sides of the island. So we felt comfortable where we were in Lynyard Cay to tuck in kind of close to shore and just wait those out. The good thing is that we did have another day of fairly good weather, and we hadn't gotten out to see the south side of the island yet. And so we decided to take a little excursion over there to see what we could find. So the two of us just hopped in the dinghy, loaded it up, and our goal was to get to the tip of the island, right where there's a break for the Little Harbor channel. And even though we weren't sure how long we were going to stay in that spot, we thought that maybe if we were there when the weather cleared up and if there were good things down there, we could try and get in the water again. For some good snorkeling, we're still on a search for good coral heads since we didn't find much near the north side of the island. When we stepped off the dinghy, the surface actually kind of reminded us of an alien planet. Coming out of the sand were all these jagged mounds of coral and rock, and there weren't actually too many areas for us to step on in between them. While we were trying to make our way around them without tripping, we saw that the coral was filled with thousands of tiny snails everywhere that you looked. There were a few good-sized ones strewn in there as well, and I was joking with Matt that if I had some fresh garlic, I might actually try my hand at some escargot. We kept scouting for areas that might have fish or lobster, but all we could find around there were snails and more snails. There were also some prehistoric trilobites embedded in the coral, which is very keeping in the theme of the landscape, which is quite abnormal to what we were used to seeing. Unfortunately, after our exploration, we decided that it was a cool place to spend an hour or two, but it still didn't have the underwater life we were searching for. Today is day 2 of the front we're waiting out here at Lynyard Cay. We knew that the winds were going to be starting at the north, but then as they grew heavier, they're switching to the east, and we have protection on the west side of the island. You can hear it blowing out there right now. Yesterday was a bit lighter. It was forecast to be about 15 to 20. Maybe a little heavier. Today is supposed to be the heavy day at 25 to 30 or a little more. We can only go by the forecast because we don't have an anemometer just yet, but we'll be getting one soon enough. We had one. It broke. Someone broke it.
Matt broke it.
Matt broke it. He dropped it from the mast after it was up for a week. Anyway, back to now. the winds that are coming in from the east now are coming in from the Atlantic side, and the Atlantic side of this island is full of these like coral heads. So after the wind and the waves have had some time to build up after this front came in yesterday, we are going to hike across. There's a nice little beach, and then it's just like a few steps and you're on the other side. So we want to come see these like waves crashing over, because even just looking out our windows now, we can see these big sprays. So we had to put the dinghy on deck last night. It was starting to kind of flip over from the strong gusts, so we're going to get it inflated, hop in, take a very wet ride in, and go check out some hopefully monstrous waves. It was quite the comparison when we looked at the protected little spot where Elements was sitting, and the absolute fury of the wind and the waves coming in from the opposite side of the island. We don't know how strong the gusts were that were blowing through, but a couple of them were almost strong enough to knock me off my feet. Knowing we get even better views further north on the island, we followed the trail out to the large sandy beach and were right in front of the action, as sprays of salt water covered our face. Heading back to the boat, we took a new trail that led us right out to the cruisers beach, something we hadn't even visited yet. With complete protection from the winds, we knew it would be a place to come back to and hang out. The next day, the winds still didn't show any signs of letting up, so we pulled on our windbreakers and headed for the beach again. With 3 days now of building up, the waves were crashing into the rocks with even more force, exploding into little clouds of mist that would reach us all the way back at the trailhead. Since we came out to the beach at the perfect viewing area, we just sat in the sand, mesmerized by something so beautiful that you can really only appreciate when you know the devastation these seas could cause you out on the water. Once we'd had our fill of wave action, it was time to grab Georgie and lounge in the protection of the lee of the island. Armed with our sporta seats, a few beers apiece, and our e-readers, we weren't going to let a few blustery days keep us from enjoying our time here in Lynyard Cay to the fullest. After the few days of winds started to calm down and we were able to get ourselves traveling again without like 30-knot easterly winds blowing on us, we decided that the best way to get ourselves back to Florida was to go the same route that we had come. It would give us the option to just do day hops and kind of like wait for the perfect weather window, where if we went the other route to the Berries, it would have been a direct sail to the Berries to wait however long for a weather window to get to Bimini, to wait out a weather window to then get to Florida. So when we decided to leave Lynyard Cay, we were heading back north. The plan when we left was to go back to Hopetown just to spend a night or two until we could check the weather and decide where we want to go next. When we did leave, we were slightly uneasy about passing the North Channel Bar right at the northern tip of Lynyard Cay, because of the strong winds and the few days that you could see the swells had been building up. We didn't know how much of it was going to affect the Sea of ABACO coming in or how rough the ride was. When we got up to the cut in the reef, there were still some swells that were rolling in, but luckily they were fairly spread apart, and so we were able just to ride up and down them without beating. And we also found out that Elements does a great job going into the waves. She was very smooth and just cut through them really well. The ride was surprisingly comfortable. I don't think I would have wanted to be downstairs preparing a meal, but sitting out in the cockpit, it was actually just kind of fun to watch some of the waves break over us and watch them break on the shore in front of us. Once we found ourselves in the lee of Tahiti, we were back to perfect sailing conditions. The seas had calmed themselves back down, and we had what we were guessing was 17 or so knots of wind on our beam. It was one of those picturesque days where you couldn't even imagine hiding out in the cockpit, but had to take advantage of the fresh air and sunshine out on deck.
The factory main sheet position was this traveler track, this small traveler, not really long, not hugely beneficial, and the way this one is, it's an old version, not really the most adjustable car in the world. It's pin stops on it. Now I can change that and change travelers. Add something, a nice Garhauer, a parking unit, ball bearing type setup, and get some of the usability back. The problem that we run into is the way this was welded together, very strong, but unfortunately it impedes and blocks our vision forwards. We're trying to figure out, once we put the fabric in for the Dodger, that's going to come down, of course, on an angle forward to this position. Is it worthwhile to keep this traveler, this little short traveler here, or to go with a different main sheet system? We have a few different options, a few different ways of doing it. Again, we can keep the traveler the way it is, pretty much. Attach the Dodger to the traveler base itself, the aluminum, and then have the rest of it skirt around, and still have the blockage of this and the limitations of having a short track on a traveler and having pin stop cars. It's all right. For this boat, it's not extremely mainsail driven. It's mostly driven off of the head sails, but still, obviously, of course, it's important to be able to shoot the mainsail properly. We wanted to try something out. What we do is we have right now, a dual main sheet setup, which they're fiddle blocks. Again, this is just a temporary, just to see how this feels. But we have 2 fiddle blocks on either side and 2 main sheets. What this allows us to do is it allows us to act like we have a really, really wide traveler. We're able to pull the main sheet or let the main sheet out to this side, and we can still pull down on the leeward main sheet, and we can tighten the leech as needed. Or, again, we can pull it towards the center line, and we can pull down on both of them to tighten the leech. We can bring it over, of course, to the other side. It gives us a lot of different options of articulating. The negative with it is every single time, if you're in this zone, if the boom is within basically this zone, every single time that you adjust one, you have to adjust the other as well. So a little adjustment on the windward to bring the boom more towards the windward side. You also need to do the leeward and pull that, tighten that leech again if needed. Really the problem that we run into is when we're in heavy air or heavy wind situations. To release the main sheet a little bit or bring it in a little bit, what we end up doing is we end up bagging out the sail until we're able to tighten the leeward or tighten the other one to bring the boom back down. So what it really does is it relies a lot on the vang, the boom vang, to hold the boom down as we're making our adjustments. It puts a lot of stress on the gooseneck for the boom where it interacts with the mast. It pushes the boom forward into the mast and creates a lot of stress there when you have the vang really, really tightened down. So it's a kind of a compromise system. I don't love it, but the benefit is we get to chop this completely off. So this would be gone. There's 0 deck penetrations then, so there's nothing going through because it would actually be still attached to these handrails. They're removable, so you can bring one of the block systems over to the tow rail, tighten down, and when we have the main out, we can kind of fix it in position, pull it down as needed to prevent it from flopping around in light air situations. Quasi-preventer type setup, not really, we still rig a preventer, but it does give us another option with that. So those are the different things that we have. Again, pop this off. We do gain the visibility forward. We'd lower this little bracket. We'd have the visibility forward. Does that make it worthwhile to run with this dual sheeting system? That is kind of the question that we have. And unfortunately, we're getting to that point that we need to make that decision soon. We ordered our last of our Dodger track setup to do the fabric. We have the glass for it. We have all the different stuff, and we really need to make that decision soon. We wanted to sail with both ways, and we kind of have. Again, we see the limitations with both of them, both setups. Not saying that this is the way to do it. We just don't know exactly what's going to be the best way for us.
Although our destination of the day had been our usual anchorage of Hopetown, we knew as soon as we came up on Tahiti Beach on the south end of ABACO Cay that our plans for the night were going to change. Sitting right next to a complicated-looking cut, the inside portion of this island was surrounded by palm trees and sandy beaches that extended a half-mile out at low tide. Still wanting to catch a bit of the wave action coming in from the Atlantic side, we walk the path east and closer to the cut. With all the tall palm trees hanging over sandy beaches and green mounds a little way off in the distance, we could see why the spot was named Tahiti Beach. Sure enough, once we got to the inlet, we were greeted by large rollers that were making their way into the small harbor and crashing on the rocks in front of us. The colors were such a brilliant blue and looked so inviting that it was hard to remind yourself that this was not just a big wave pool to play in. Grab a couple of beach chairs though, and we could have sat there all afternoon. Instead, we parked ourselves down by the beach and enjoyed a few of the drinks we packed in our dry bag. One of the most picturesque spots we've come across in the ABACOs. We wish we could spend days and days here, exploring every little cove and path. But of course, we had yet another northern on our tail that was going to send us running for cover in Marsh Harbor. If you've caught one of our previous episodes, you might have seen that we've partnered with ABACO Polarized sunglasses, and every month we're going to be doing a giveaway so that you, our viewers, have the opportunity to win a pair. We've been using them for a few months now, love them. These are my Montanas, which I just recently got, and all you have to do to enter the contest, hi George, you can't.
Always.
Always. All you have to do to enter the contest is leave a comment below in this video. It doesn't have to do anything with the sunglasses. You can comment on whatever you'd like. And 1 week after this episode publishes, we will go ahead and draw a winner and contact you through a personal message. They do offer free shipping within the United States, although if you're a winner outside of the US, you will be responsible for that. But otherwise, that is all you need to do. So we'll leave the exact date and time in the description below of the video for the drawing, but otherwise just leave a comment and win your own awesome pair. Join us in our next episode of MJ Sailing, where I make a little bit of an oopsie while we're sailing back to Marsh Harbor. Yep.
Turn plotter off.
Sorry. And Matt and I celebrate 18 years together by seeking out some good Bahamian food. Definitely come here and get the crack conch because it is to die for.